Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Yep, had to take a week off last week. Was not feeling good. Throat was destroyed. I think I almost died. Actually, that's not true. I just had a sore throat. Sounded scratchy. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of just listening to myself talk. So we're going to go back to sitting down and having conversations with interesting people. You know, the reason I started the podcast in the first place. So today I got to sit down with a man named Brian Shantosh. And to say he has an interesting background would be a drastic understatement. He's digging in deep to the ultra, actually I don't know what you'd call it, ultra marathon, ultra distance scene, races. He talked a little bit about, not to steal from the podcast, talked a little bit about, what he's getting into now and why, and his unique and interesting approach to training and preparing for them. But beyond that, just what he's doing now, previously led up to that, 21 years in the Marine Corps, which to me is a very different experience than my time in the Navy. I always had an immense amount of respect for Marines and how they treat service and how they view service. And, I love their motto that every Marine's a rifleman. It's an underpinning philosophy and methodology of how they treat their service, and I love it. And it was great to get his perspective on service, his time in service, the impact that's had on his life, and how it kind of is driving his life forward and selecting some of the things he's choosing to do now. And talked just about life in general. Sat down with him for about 90 minutes. So instead of listening to me talk, let's listen to him talk a little bit. Let's get back into it. Cleared Hot, episode number 8, coming at you.
Okay, I got the red smoke. Gun run, north and south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke. Okay, copy, west of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now. Come on with it, baby, give it to me, I need it. You're cleared hot. Copy, cleared hot.
I don't even know where to start. I think the best way for us to start is to go backwards.
Let's do it.
So, when did you realize you were insane? So we're going to tackle the current issues first. No, I say that because,
you ever know a crazy person that was telling the truth?
Yeah, I mean, they could tell the truth even though they're crazy, right?
Like if you're crazy and you say, yeah, I'm crazy, he's lying. Because crazy people don't admit that they're crazy.
Because they don't know.
And so you ask a crazy person, are you crazy? And he says, no, I'm not crazy. You're like, oh, well, shit, like that person's lying.
Pretty much.
He's crazy.
No, I want to talk about the ultra marathon, super long distance stuff.
Yeah.
So first, though, I want to talk about the upcoming race in Iceland. So I'm going to let you set the stage, and then we're going to talk about your robust training methodology that you've been using for the months leading up to this.
I don't know if America's ready for that.
So let's get into it. What are you getting ready to do in Iceland?
It's called the Fire and Ice Ultra, and it's on the world stage, international stage of ultra endurance events. It's all running, so single modality. But basically, for 7 days, you're running a marathon a day, unsupported. Everything you need for 7 days it's on your back. They'll give you water when you get done with your distance for the day. It might be hot, it might be cold, don't know.
You might get lost.
Well, actually, what's nice about this course is that it's marked supposedly the whole way. So unless you get too loopy, you just follow the red flags. So it takes a little bit of the dynamic out, but marathon a day for 7 days. I mean, and it's across lava fields, glaciers, stream, glacial runoff crossings. So it'll be exciting.
Yeah. So 7 marathons in a row. I've never run a marathon. I wouldn't want to run a marathon, but if I was going to run a marathon, I would probably work up to that distance over time. Right? I'd put in just a crazy training protocol leading up to that. So when is this race?
I've got to check in August 26th in above the Arctic Circle, Akureyri.
Yeah. So this month, right, we're talking 20-some days.
Yep.
How much training have you done so far?
Ran a few miles in the last couple months.
Yeah, and by that you mean a few miles.
Yeah.
You're not joking and like, hey, no, by a few miles, I mean a few hundred. You're saying legitimately you haven't started really training for this yet?
No, everything's been less than 5 mile runs, and when I say runs, I came out here to Madison, and I was like, hey, I gotta do something. So I put the shoes on. I've never worn them. I put brand new shoes on and hit the street, and I was like, I'm gonna go for a run. And
Hey, at least you're doing that.
yeah,
Because I think that most other people who are going to be attempting this probably have a different training routine right now leading up to it.
yeah.
But at least you're putting the shoes on, because I'm sure you learned that lesson the hard way, man. Never go into the field with shoes that you've never worn, because your feet won't survive.
Right. They didn't survive this run either, because now I'm patching feet up, but that's all right.
So what are you going to do between now? I mean, you're going to get there early, I'm assuming. So you'll probably head over there in like 2.5 weeks, something like that?
Yeah, I'll go there on the 24th or the 25th and see my daughter. She lives in Reykjavik, and then I'll get on a bus somehow and get up to the start line. Figure it out when you get there, and check in and just take it in stride, man. Take it in stride.
Got any training plans between now and then? Or like, you going to stick with the training protocol you're on?
It's the best. It's working. Everybody overtrains. They get to an event, and they've trained so much that they're tired from their training, and
Yeah.
so they're starting an event fatigued. I just, it's a life philosophy too. Prepare. I mean, whether it's CrossFit or whether it's just military, Marine, it doesn't matter. It's like, what are you going to do today? What can you do today? If the unknown and the unknowable, if the enemy says, hey, how many pull-ups can you do? It's not, oh, well, I've been training for 3 weeks. If I had another 2 weeks, I could do this many. Or, I've got a shoulder injury. If it
Or
wasn't
I
for
need
my
to go get
shoulder
my
injury.
wraps, or I need to go, no, it's none of that.
No, right now, time, performance on demand. And I found that if you actually live a life like that, that's actually the best training. So this race or this event is my training for the next one. And that's just kind of how I operate.
I like it, mostly because it's completely divergent, I think, from the path that most people would take. Like, again, I'm not an endurance athlete whatsoever. I'm probably not an athlete whatsoever. I'm a enthusiast of certain things, but I'm not very athletic. But I see, I would agree with you. Most people go into stuff way overtrained. That volume of work and their bodies beat down. It's. I also think that the most important thing you can train is between your ears. And that drives a lot of the physical. It trumps the fancy Arc'teryx jacket, right? That's great to have, and it's sexy, and maybe it's made out of some high speed, space shuttle material. But if you're weak between the ears, it doesn't really matter how fancy it is, right? To me, I think that's what I appreciate the most about it, because I know you're just fucking hard as nails, and you go out there. Who's telling me? Again, tying back into, we have to work our way backwards because you've done so much interesting stuff. But what was the race you did that Chris Smith was supporting?
Oh my God, yeah, we did. Well, there was a couple. We went up to do the Arrowhead with Chris Smith. That had been my nemesis for a few years.
What is the Arrowhead for people who aren't familiar?
Yeah, that's a great point. The Arrowhead 135. You go on a historically coldest day of the year in northern Minnesota, International Falls, and you attempt to do a 135 miles. You tow your sled, you tow your gear and equipment across ice pack or snowmobile trail, and you only have 60 hours to finish it. So super cold, long. The race is about solitude. It's about internal reflection. It's about you're out there and just being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
I was going to add to your description, pain. The race is about solitude and all those things, and pain, and how much can you take?
Yeah, anybody that does a race because they want to experience pain, those people are crazy. I like to do the races that are painful because I like to see when you're experiencing discomfort, your true character starts to shine.
Yep.
And I'll sit here and you'll ask me questions and I'll bullshit you all day long about my character or what I believe in. But you know what? The true test of somebody is how they operate in these other moments.
In adversity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
The story, though, that was hilarious was, again, not necessarily about your training protocol leading up to it, but I'm assuming in that race you were probably racing with people who had some high-speed stuff, right? They probably devote a large portion of their life to, this is my racing jacket, these are my racing shoes, these are my racing tights. And the story I heard about you was that, Chris could hear you coming from a long distance away because the word on the street is you don't like running in racing tights, right? So
Absolutely.
You basically were wearing cotton sweats that were soaked in water, and they could hear you just coming. And again, it's the difference between I'm gonna strengthen my mind and just do it regardless of what I have on me, and somebody who they strengthen their mind as well too, but they also go down that very niche gear route of trying to get all the sexy stuff. And Yeah, man. I shook my head and I was just laughing so hard because I'm like, yeah, that's Tosh.
Yeah.
Just rolling in cotton sweats. Probably got him at Target the day before and just threw him on.
No, they were old. I love those things. They had holes in them. They were crotch was worn out and sewn together. That was actually the Bull Run. It was a 50 miler, and Chris texted me like a week before the race. Hey, I'm going to go do the Bull Run. You want to do it? And I was like, yeah, it's Chris Smith. Who's going to say no to Chris Smith?
I do.
And,
frequently.
you do,
I had no problem. Yeah, he'll ask me to do that. I'm like, no, that's completely painful. I'm not doing that.
And then he looks at you, and I do not want Chris Judge, looking at me, thinking I'm a pussy. Like I refuse that. And so I said yes. I showed up. I have cotton sweatpants on and a Ziploc baggie with like 2 NoDos, 4 Advils, a couple sticks of gum, and 4 safety pins so I could attach my number. And you get down there and everybody's got their high-speed running gear, their tights, their headphones, or this or that. And Chris is like, "You ready to go? You got to go get your chance." And I just pulled my Ziploc baggie out and I showed him, put it back in my pocket.
I got it all right here, Sarge. I'm ready to
What
roll.
else do I need? So over reliance on gear. I mean, your gear's only as good as you know how to use it,
Yep.
and your gear's only as good as how competent you are inside your own skin, anyways, inside your own mind, even. And so. While good gear is a force multiplier,
Yep.
and I like good gear, I like the gear that I've used that's trustworthy. I know how to use it, I know how it performs, and I usually outperform my gear because you're trained that way, and that's why I like it. I like it. It's about me.
And I find it like the apex of the high-end gear too, or maybe even below the apex as you start getting up there, it has the ability to hide flaws or chinks in your armor until it gets to a point where you need something in that gap of experience. And then what's your gear going to do for you? Nothing. You have the most high-speed, technically designed fill in the blank, but what you actually need is some experience, some time soaking in a pool so you know what to do with the one thing you can control, right? You and yourself. And yeah, I see that all the time. I started seeing it in the military a little bit too with the younger kids coming through, usually manifesting itself in land navigation skills.
Absolutely.
Why? Because they get these awesome high-speed Garmin GPSs or whatever model, and I mean, dude, they've been navigating on Google Maps since they were 6. Like my kids, I've never shown how to use an Apple device, but I can slide it to them, and my daughter's 9, and she can figure out how to use and find something on the map, right? So they've been navigating that way forever. When I learned how to navigate in the military, we started with the topo map, the protractor, compass, and it's still my favorite way to navigate is terrain feature navigation. Get these kids coming through like, oh, I'm good, I look at this GPS, I'm like, okay, what do the batteries run out? I'm like, oh, I got these spare ones. I'm like, okay, what if that pocket fails on your gear and you don't have any more batteries? What are you going to do then, right? Highest $500 GPS that's the size of a deck of playing cards, it's going to do nothing for you if you can't turn itself on. So
It's replacing. We're using technology, gear to replace hard skills.
we were talking about this the
Got
other
to
day.
learn the hard skills.
The hack, right?
Yeah.
The attempt to I don't know if 10,000 hours is an accurate assessment for mastery. I bet you it's probably short. It's probably more than 10,000 hours, but I look at everything I did in the military, and it fell back into largely the role of the mentorship, mentor, mentoree. And most of the time, I was certainly on the mentoree side of the house. I'm crazy fortunate to be surrounded by those people. But you can hack. Like I was saying to you the other day, you want to hack your email inbox? Go for it. Knock yourself out. If you want to, I don't know. As long as it doesn't have a consequence, go ahead and hack it. But if it has consequence of any kind, and especially if somebody else's life or anything is on the line because of that consequence, and you try to hack something, you're going to end up getting yourself into a position you're not prepared for.
Yeah. Everybody wants to play the video games with cheat codes.
Yeah.
And it's great. Get the high score, you won. Yeah, you used your cheat code, but you're not going to live life. You're not going to be a leader in leadership situations. You're not going to get out of moments, times, or events of extremists off of cheat codes. And
Yeah.
so, while the GPS is awesome to me, to you, to many of us that think this way, it is a form of a hack or a cheat code.
Yeah.
You've got to learn how to navigate. In fact,
It saves time, but it can't replace the ability to look at a map, know that you need to orient it towards north, orient yourself to the map, and go, oh, I need to go that way.
yeah, or process information and make decisions, right? Like we've got to say, well, am I going to go up and over this hill while it's the shortest? It might be too costly in terms of exertion.
Yep.
I got to look at my unit. I got to look at my men. I've got to look at the events laid out before me, and it's like, well, okay, let's go up and over because I know that I'm this. Or you know what? Let's take the long route because it's a long game. Let's go around.
Let's
and
take
conserve
3
energy.
clicks to go one, but over flatter terrain, and everybody, especially your automatic weapons gunners or guys who are packing a ton of weight, they get there and they're fresh. Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
So on the endurance side, you weren't doing that when you were in the Marine Corps. I mean, I'll call that a different type of endurance sports, as all military service is. That's a different type of endurance sports.
Yeah.
But how did you get into it? Like, what sparked your interest?
Hey, looking for the rush. Looking to maybe the rush is the wrong word, but in the military we've got this sense of camaraderie. We have this sense, the things that we do are exciting, adrenaline. They compel us, they move us, they give us purpose. They're constantly challenging us. If you're a high achiever in the military, you're looking for challenging situations. You're looking for opportunities or scenarios that's going to pull you towards growth.
I think the
challenge your
military
talent base.
naturally selects for this type of people, which is why a lot of the personalities are similar. I totally agree with what
Oh
you're
yeah,
saying.
yep. And find myself outside the military and asking the question of, well, who am I? Who am I? Who are you?
I laugh not because it's funny, but because I ask myself that same question like every day. I totally get it. I get it.
And the things that were going through my mind were, well, I've been this person because of my billet, because of things that I've done, and people have expectations because of the awesome amount of responsibilities you have, the rule construct, hierarchy, whatever, what have you. But now all of a sudden that's gone. I'm retired. I've got nothing. And you start asking yourself, well, was I just this person? Because all of this other stuff was in place. And so I started doing some things and like to reaffirm or to find myself, challenge whether I am actually who I am or if I was just a product of this beast, this awesome organization. In my case, the military. In your case, the Navy SEALs. And so,
Which also still the military, Tosh. Come on. Stay with me.
Oh, yeah. Good call. So you say.
Yeah.
No.
I listen. We had different haircut standards sometimes, but yeah, still the military. It's all the same.
It's all the same. One
Yeah.
team. And so I found that in the adventure race community. I like teams. I don't like the solo stuff. I've shied away from the solo stuff. And in fact, that was why the Arrowhead was so hard for me for a few years. Was I found myself in this solo environment, relying, and it spooked me out.
Yeah.
For some reason, I draw strength from being with others and trying to give, and it just starts to grow. Events get longer, get harder, and get longer, and get harder, and you get better, and you constantly challenge yourself. And next thing you know, you look back, and it's been 4 years, and all of a sudden now you're doing 250-kilometer or 10-day races in the middle of wherever, and you just keep pushing your boundaries further and further because the challenge excites you, because you know it's that exact challenge which is making you stronger, making you better, so that you can continue to give to the community that you want to surround yourself with. And so
Yeah, you're looking for the
doing
line,
it.
man. I think we're both doing exactly the same thing, just through a different outlet. Like
Yep.
for me, the jumping that I do, especially the base jumping side of the house, the most common thing people say about it is, "Oh, you're an adrenaline junkie." And I used to try to correct them, but I just shake my head now. It's like, okay, sure, if that's what you want to classify it as, but I'm not looking for adrenaline. I'm looking to challenge myself. Mm-hmm. And what you're just saying reminded me of something I was thinking about the other day. A realization that I came to. I was almost never alone in my time in the military, and I didn't realize that until I got out. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no time by yourself. I mean, obviously you can go home from work when you're not deployed overseas, but when you're overseas, you maybe get a little bit of time at night by yourself if you're lucky, but everything else is in the company of people that you have, for the most part, an exceptional amount of trust with. It's a crazy environment to, literally and physically hang up a uniform one day, go get your DD-214, and leave base. I remember the first time I drove off, I retired at a Naval Air Station, North Island. This is where I signed my paperwork, and I was driving off the base. It's just an odd feeling of,
I'm alone now.
I'm alone, and I spent all of my life, since as long as I can remember, focusing and desiring and dreaming of being part of that group. I really hadn't spent much time thinking about what was going to happen next. Mm-hmm. It was quite a sobering day. Sobering day for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you tell yourself when you're in the middle of one of those runs? Like, because I know it hurts, and I know you're tired, and I know what I tell myself when things get difficult. But talk to me about your mental headspace. Like, how do you go into the race, and how do you deal with it? Because I mean, we're all human beings, right? I have the ups and the downs, but you have to be able to navigate both, right? I don't get to just pick the days where the sun's shining and it's like the unicorns are flying and the gumdrops are falling from the sky. So what do you tell yourself when you're out in the middle of nowhere and it just sucks?
Yeah, I don't know. The good thing is when I'm in the team settings for some of the adventure racing and the ultra adventures that I do, expeditions.
By team setting, do you mean the support? Like you have times where you're solo, right? But then you link up with your support crew? Is that what you mean?
No. So like when we get into like doing adventure racing,
Okay.
World Championship adventure racing or Primal Quest or these 5 to 10 day long expeditions, you're in teams of 4.
Okay.
And so when I'm in those settings covering 400 miles in 5-6 days or whatever, multi-sports, that question never comes to mind.
Yeah, because I would imagine, I'll make an assumption for you, you're thinking about the people that you're with. And if
Yeah.
you're anything like me, it's like you're not waiting on
You
me.
never think about yourself.
Yeah, I will kill myself to make sure that nobody else has to carry an ounce of my weight.
Yep.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's actually not good when it's taken to the extreme, right?
'cause you'll
Like we've
die.
always had that where, Tosh, you care so much about everybody else, you got to take care of yourself. And so I'm a machine. I don't have to take care of myself. You're not going to hurt me. I'm with other people. Like I've given and given and given. I draw my strength from giving. And it's like, well, sometimes you have to take care of yourself in order to continue to sustain your culminating point and extend it so that you can continue to give to others. And so when I started recognizing that, I was like, okay, well, I need to start doing some individual events and start questioning who I am when I'm by myself. Who am I drawing my strength from?
Yeah.
I need to find out what I'm going to resource for strength. And I made some faults, or I made some mistakes. Oh, well, I want to make Nicole proud, or I want to make my parents proud, or I told social media this, that I'm doing it and I don't want to let them down, or I don't want to embarrass myself. And
External motivations, if you will.
Exactly. And that was a significant flaw because it's not really, it's not intrinsic if we want to go with cliche words, intrinsic, extrinsic motivation or whatnot, but it wasn't purposeful. And that falls away in these moments of fatigue or exceptional hunger, cold, and it's like, oh, well, I don't want to, and you can start rationalizing your way out of it. So I actually failed. I've never quit an event, and I quit this Arrowhead, not 1 year because I broke mentally, and the next year because I made bad decisions and broke, and it's like, what the heck is going on? And it haunted me. And then I realized it was my motivators were wrong. I'm doing this for I need to be doing things for myself. And when I started to actually, we talked about that, the B,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to do this for me. I had a purpose because I'm soul searching. I want to be the stronger, I want to be the best version of myself. I want to learn who I am. I want to challenge myself. And when I started having that, when I'm out there and you're hungry and you're tired, and it doesn't even come into my mind now, like, well, this is good enough. I can quit. But that's not why I'm out there. I'm out there to continue to push myself even farther and farther and farther so that I can self-identify and grow that challenge. And so I think somehow we got off the question was, what do I tell myself when I'm out there? But I don't have to tell myself anything because I'm out there because I want to be out there. When I'm out there, it's like I look around, I'm like, I would rather be nowhere else in this world with nobody else in this exact moment. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing right here, right now. And whether that's with other people or that's by myself, that's what comes out. And sometimes I even say that out loud and nobody can hear me for miles. But I say it out loud, and it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Did I answer anything there? Or
No, you
I
did,
just
man.
rambled
No,
shit on about something.
But I think everybody has their own thing. Like for me, when I get to places that things suck, I'm just like, you know what, just another step, and I just focus on the immediate in front of me and stop focusing on the totality. Mm-hmm. Like when you go into a race, I'll rephrase it a different way then. Like, so say you're going into this 250-mile race, or what is it, 250 kilometers or 250 miles?
This next one, 250K, yep.
All right, so that's 100 and change, right? Are you thinking about the whole 100 and change at a time, or do you just bite it off from what you can see in front of you?
Moments at a time. Live in the moment. Live in the moment. Stop thinking about the past.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit what you think you can do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just live in the moment.
Yeah.
Right? Performance on demand. What am I doing right now? And that's one more step. One more step.
Yeah. So what's it going to be after this race in Iceland?
Oh my God! I got a big year. Somehow I don't even know. It got away from me. But I'll go to a Moab 200, an inaugural race. So
What's wrong with you?
I don't know. Something that excited me because this race has never been done before. There's no data. There's no metrics.
Oh, the Moab one
This
hasn't?
Moab has never been done. Introductory thing. Candace Burt, she's amazing. She started this thing, wanted to take the 100-mile. Everybody's doing 100-milers. She's like, hey, the new 100 is the 200.
Yeah. The benchmark continues to move.
Yeah. And I found I did a Tahoe 200 last year, and I loved it. It was a loop. You're not having to go back and do this or that. It was one single loop, 204 miles, whatever it was. And it's a different experience, significantly different than a 100-miler. And it excited me. It continues to push your boundaries, and you have to re-strategize. But the race has been done a few times. And so what I was doing, good Marine, you pull up data, you're looking, you're strategizing, looking at course profiles, this, that.
Yep.
And, okay, here's who I am. I think I'm like this guy, and da-da-da-da. And I cracked the code for that race before even running it. I mean, I still had to execute it. I
Yeah,
had
for
a
sure.
Strong support team.
You had a killer
in my
plan, though,
corner.
based on the data.
Yeah.
What's your body feel like at the end of that?
Smashed ass.
For how long?
Oh, this one, you think it's not gonna.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get through that shitty feeling, and then all of a sudden you crash again, especially if you try to go too hard. So yeah, it's about a 2-week recovery for me where I'm at. You know, there's an adrenaline lag or something,
Yeah.
or an adrenal lag. I'm not a science guy. I just know that.
I'm not either, but I would bet your body's in a little bit of shock. I mean, you're charging it well into fifth gear for longer than most people ever will.
Yeah, I think actually emotionally a stronger deficit. Like I just break out into tears and I'll start crying. And I'm not a wishy-washy guy. Well, I cry a lot more anyways out of simple things, out of pure joy. I find a lot of emotion in things, and I'm not ashamed to show it when I'm moved.
Yeah.
But I just emotionally just fatigued, you know, because you're putting so much heart and soul into these events. And that's what excites me about this Moab one, though, too. No data. I'm going out there. Nobody's cracked the code. Nobody's run it. They say it's a 200, but it's 235 miles. For some reason, I don't know why you call it 200. You maybe do 235. But
Yeah, if you're going to set the benchmark, call it what it is.
yeah. But it's only 30 days after this one. So I'm excited because I've never tested myself in a back-to-back like this
In
before.
a non-fresh capacity, for sure.
Yeah.
I bet you probably, knowing you, will probably start feeling pretty good as that other race approaches, but I bet your body physiologically won't be near peak. And there's going to be a guy out there named Cam Haynes, who's a bow hunter, and he is also insane for the same reasons. He runs, the other day he was like, oh, it's the hottest day in Oregon ever, so I ran a marathon.
Of course he did.
And then he ran one the next day. 'Cause he's insane, like you, and I think he's 49.
Bless that guy.
So what
Yeah.
I'm saying is, you better beat him.
Give me his name. I'm going to be hunting him down.
Cameron
It's on now.
Haynes.
Cameron Haynes.
I'm telling you, my man runs.
Oh, jeez. you busted my chops right now. Actually, brings up a point too. Is I mean, I don't want to. Let's not confuse anybody out there. Like,
You have to
I'm
talk
not
into the
doing,
microphone,
I'm
Tosh.
sorry,
You
I'm
can't pick
sorry.
stuff off the
I
ground.
get nervous. You got me all nervous, Andy. You know, could you put your shirt back on, please,
Stop
so that I
it.
can
I don't have pants on either. But the table's hiding.
I'll look,
Yeah.
look under there. No illusions. I'm not going out there to win these things.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going out there. My purpose is to find myself and become better, become stronger. I like to find how close can I find my margin,
Yeah.
and how comfortable can I stay there.
And how much can you
in
move
my
it?
mind, and just keep going.
Yeah.
And so I go out there and I enjoy the course, and I enjoy that. I'm there. A lot of these people. That's why my training protocol is the way it is. Also, right? Some people are going to these events like, I want to win it, and that's why they have the training protocols
Yeah.
that they do. So I don't want to confuse anybody and be too super like macho and stuff like that, because that's not the truth either.
You take a
but-
different approach,
Yeah.
which I think is fair. And who's to say which one's right or wrong? You're looking at it for a different reason, for sure. You said something that I'm curious about. I don't know what your answer to this will be. You said you're more emotional now.
Mm-hmm.
Were you like that when you were in the Marine Corps?
No, not
See,
at
I
all.
wasn't either, and that's why I asked you. Do you think that the way that you express emotions now, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said you'll have those emotional reactions for easier things, right? For joy. Do you think that's because you suppressed it for so long while you were in the Marine Corps?
That's an interesting question, and I would say probably there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be a certain person, right? I mean, you have to do it for the billet.
Well, you have to
do it for
control.
the job.
Basic SEAL leadership, right? Maintain control of your emotions, even in environments where the fucking train would come off the tracks, right? Death, whether you're imparting that or receiving that, and the ability to basically, autonomous robot is not the correct term, but the ability to compartmentalize and deal and push through and not address it at the time, I think it has long-term consequences. I struggle with it myself. And that's why I asked. When you said that, it's interesting because in the Marine Corps, just like in the teams, you'd probably get made fun of, basically, if you were like that, right? That's a nice way of saying it. The guys would give you shit.
Yeah.
It wouldn't necessarily, I don't think they'd look at you differently, but you want to avoid that, right? Because you were in a leadership position, you were a leader, and you want to maintain that mystique, I guess, for lack of a better term, and show your guys what it is to maintain emotional control.
Or it has catastrophic effects too, cascading effects.
Yeah.
Where they see that the boss. Well, let's just say the boss, because it doesn't matter whether you're officer or enlisted or whatever.
For sure.
Or
The person-
you're in a leadership function.
So many
whoever
people
you
are looking at you as if what you do is going to determine success or failure. Yeah, you're in a leadership role.
And they look and they say, wow, he's affected. Now you have this catastrophic cascading effect that all of your people are affected now too.
Yep.
True story, Lieutenant Blecksmith, rest in peace, was killed, lieutenant, when we were in Fallujah, and it was huge to the unit. You don't have the luxury of being sad.
Yep.
And it's not because I wasn't sad. It was because I knew that if I showed any type of let back or any type of outburst or whatnot, that would affect everybody else.
Yep.
And so it was business. Okay, so Lieutenant was dead.
Yeah.
Dying inside.
Yeah, and there's
you can't
consequences to that
express it.
bottling. I struggle with them in and of myself. I don't know about you, man. I spend a lot of time thinking back and trying to make sense of the experiences that I have from the military and trying to figure out some way to apply them for positive benefit. And it's tough. To be good at what we did, there's long-term negative effect that has to be addressed. I think it's a negative effect if it's not addressed at some point in time.
Well, now having the construct of being in the service now, and having units and men that you're leading, men and women, you realize that, hey, I can show emotion, and it isn't associated with a sign of weakness. It isn't associated with a sign of anything else other than just like you're moved.
It's a sign of humanity.
Right? And yeah.
Seriously, it's a sign that you're a human being and you have, and that's the thing too, the most cool, calm, and collected people I was ever around in environments that you would never want to be cool, calm, and collected, they're just containing it. You know what I mean? They still feel it. It's just a choice with how you deal with it. It's I tell people there's no, when it comes to decision making, there's no positive outcome or a positive effect to emotions, but there's only negative. Just like you said, for cascading effect. And I actually, when I finally got into a leadership position on the last deployment I did, we were at a training exercise, and I forget why I started running, but even something as simple as that, right? I started running, and what happened to everybody else around me? They all started running, and I actually noticed a negative impact on it, and I kind of created for myself a checklist of things that I could never do, and one of them was run, because they looked at me like, and you know the deal. Leadership is exhausting, not because of what you say, but because of the fact that everybody is watching you all the time. Like just like you said, if you had an outburst or you had an outbreak, everybody else would go, well, fuck, Tosh is the most, fill in the blank, squared away dude leader. Like, and if that's what he's doing, then I should probably be doing that as well too. So, yeah, but then we're psychopaths after shit. Yeah. I find myself, I'm not a big crier, but I definitely find myself having powerful emotional reactions at things that are much more simple in my life. It's usually just around watching my kids, and yes, sometimes it will put a tear in my eye, but I actually recognize it in the moment as I think this is because of the fact that I spent so much time jamming emotion down my throat and not letting it out earlier in my life. It's an odd experience to look back upon.
It feels good. It feels good to be able to express emotions. And let's face it, I don't give a fuck anymore. what other people think. So if I want to walk down Main Street and cry, and you want to look at me, hey, tough guy, and look at the dude crying, I just don't care. You know, and it feels good for me to be able to express this emotion. It feels honest to myself, and it's a good place to be. So yeah, maybe I do cry more often. Maybe I do cry too much, but I don't care if I do or I don't now. It feels good to me. So
Yeah, I think it's a sign that
that's where
you're
I'm at.
returning to be a normal human. Absent, obviously, the psychopathic running behavior, but which is probably therapeutic in and of itself too, right? Because you're talking about solitude. We were talking the other day about I started messing around with like the sensory deprivation tanks, kind of the same thing, like the solitude. And they'll say, "Hey, do you want us to play music?" I'm like, don't you dare!
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in there with myself.
Well, you also said, like, do you want the 60-minute or the 90-minute session? And your response is 2 hours.
Yeah,
I
I'll
want the 120, please.
Yeah, I'll take 2 hours.
Yeah.
And when I'm screaming in there, whatever I say and the noises you hear, do not let me out.
Yeah.
I think
See,
I
you're
have
just
to
a
do
psycho.
it. I believe me, I can't argue that point. A case can be made, but I want to do the same thing. Like I want to understand myself better. I was so focused for a large portion of my adult life on other things, not myself, right? Because I cared more about the people next to me, and I was more worried about being a hindrance to them. That I got to do some work to unpack the luggage from upstairs. We'll say.
Hey, well, so let's talk about this for a second. Then, would there be any truth to the statement or the accusation that I'm about to make that you base jump, not because you're an adrenaline junkie or anything like that, but because you're self-medicating?
I would say it's very accurate.
Yeah.
And I always am try to be honest about. For one, I do love the sensation of flying a wingsuit. I mean, you're going 120 miles an hour face first. Try not to smile. Go ahead.
Right.
You know, because
Yeah.
I have tried not to smile, and it's like, you know, if I didn't have a face shield down, I'd be collecting mosquitoes and bugs the entire way down my throat. But that's only part of it to me. What I like about more than anything, like the last 2 trips I've done to Europe, we hiked 250 miles in 2 weeks, and I flew my wingsuit for maybe 15 minutes. So that's just that's like the small cherry on top of this massive tiered cake. And what I really liked was being in the backcountry, hiking with a really close friend who has a similar background, that level of trust and talking. What do you think? Like, and using the judgment and experience. And then again, I mean, I'm terrified when my toes are over the edge of a cliff, when my resting heart rate is probably 170, if not higher, and I jump to try to find that point, it's not the rush, it's the challenge. It's the same thing. Like, I have no desire to run for 250 kilometers. I have a desire to find my boundary and keep pushing it, more importantly, by doing those things, the things that I love to do. But it's the flight is just the icing on the cake. And I am a different person for probably a few months after those trips because of the release that I get from pushing that boundary. So yeah, it's 100%
And that's the same for
medication.
me. That's what the racing is for me. I think I was over medicating for a while after leaving experiences in the military, and fitness was my outlet. Go harder, go longer, go more, go stronger, go whatever,
Yeah.
and keep pushing the boundaries. Because it does. You get sciencey and talk about endorphin releases, whatever. But it was like, hey, the noise just got really quiet. You're out on the trail. You're running through the mountains. You're running through the woods. You're whatever it is. I think the noises inside got quiet. And then I finally realized, after a few years of doing that, like, that while it might not be as bad as overdosing on alcohol or prescription drugs or worse,
Yeah.
right? It was still a form of self-medication, and it was taken in overdose. And so,
It can be taken too far, yeah.
Yeah.
It could actually become another place you could hide.
and so now where I'm at, it's purposeful. I
Yep.
do these things with purpose, and it's controlled, and I'm seeking answers, and I'm taking a different approach to it. And it's about that process. It's about the sharing, thinking, and pushing yourself to your limit and challenging. But there's a feedback mechanism there that, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
But now it's constructive. It's in control. And I asked that question to you because, again, you said you're same thing, just different mediums, right? Like, I do this, you do that. So and so does this, so and so does that. But the common theme is that we've taken something to fill a gap
Yep.
in our lives, in our careers, or to suppress feelings because of experiences, and it was out of control for a little bit. Now all of a sudden we've grown up. Well, no, we haven't grown up.
I mean,
but
I was going to say
we've
perhaps
matured
you
a little
have.
bit.
I was going to give you the benefit of the doubt. For myself, I'm still emotionally 9.
Yeah. Yeah. But now it's constructive. It's got purpose now, and now we're growing from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not dulling anything. We're actually growing. And
I think it makes me. I think for me, and maybe again, I think the military largely self-regulates by people with personality traits are drawn to that career field in general. Largely, it those activities post they help me integrate back into what I would put in air quotes as being normal, and it turns, like you said, it turns the volume down on a lot of things in my life that I pay too much attention to without noticing it. When I come back from those trips, it's from a 10 down to like a 3, and I can't explain it, but I'm a better dad. I'm more tolerant, I'm more compassionate, and it's not that I'm not those things. I would like to think that I'm not those things all the time, but I notice a difference. It's like, things will happen. It's like, you know what, that doesn't matter. Whereas before I might have, lost my shit on something that didn't matter. I talked to keep in good contact with some of my buddies, and if you get deep enough into a conversation, all of them are either searching for or have found something like that, something to bridge the gap between where we came from and I would say the unknown of where we're going. But it helps them too. And without that, I know quite a few guys who just go into a bottle and pills, and it's not pretty. Not pretty at all. So yeah, now that we're both suicidal, I want to talk about your time in the military. So you did 23 years, right?
21, just under 21, yep.
All right, I'm going to give you 2 more.
I'll take it.
All
I'll
right,
take
good.
it.
You did 21. Why'd you join the military?
Oh, man.
And where are you from, by the way? Like, let's go even farther back. Where are you from?
Rochester, New York, suburbia, middle-class family, well-off, mom and dad, great parents, never let me go without. They struggled to make ends meet. Kids came first, work hard, new pair of shoes for school every year, brand new notebook.
For a second, I thought you said new parachute. I was like, oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah. And, so that's that. I'd love to, oh, man, Naval Academy. They used to cringe when somebody would ask me this question in an audience or whatever, because they knew the truth was about to come out, because you want to hear something good. You want to hear, oh, my grandpa, my dad were in the service, and they did this.
Yeah,
and
like
it was
a lineage, a legacy thing, yeah.
Oh, yeah, where I was moved by Johnny on the block who did it or whatever. I needed to serve my country for 9/11, and I wish I could tell you. But the truth is I was troubled, out of place, didn't respect my family values. I was an 18-year-old punk, a little bit of trouble here, a little mischief with a community, found myself doing community service, and I tried to join the Air Force. I was like, finally had it up, parents, family structure. Hey, you know what? Fine. Mom and dad are always saying, you should go to the military. It'll straighten you out. I was like, fine, I'll teach you guys a lesson. I'll join the military. Right? I'm going to teach my parents the lesson. I'm going to punish you guys. I'm going to join the military. If that's what you want, fine.
That's not a common tale, just so you know.
It's not.
As far as, hey, why'd you join the military? Yes, that's not most people. Actually, I've never encountered another human being who has said to punish my parents. So that's a first. Congratulations to you.
Good. And that's the truth of it. And I literally went down to I was in trouble. I think I was serving like 130 hours of community service for the third or fourth time at the Jewish Community Center, scrubbing blue marks off of racquetball courts. And by the time you got through court 5, you're back on court 1 again. And,
kind of like painting a battleship. Start at the front, work your way around to the back, and when you get to the front again, just keep on going.
Never ending. Air Force recruiter said, hey, you know what? We're not interested in you. You're not the kind of person that we're looking for. And it blew me away. Straight A student, never studied, athlete, whatever.
So you were going to enlist.
Yep.
Oh, the enlisted route, okay.
Yep. And I just remember being floored by that. Walking out of the Air Force recruiter's office, Staff Sergeant Allen, big, jacked, short Marine. What's going on? What's up? I'm like, fuck that guy. He just told me I wasn't good enough for the Air Force. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, come on in here. What do you want to do? I was like, I don't care. I just want to jump out of airplanes and run around the woods with a gun and do something cool. And I was just a punk kid, man. And
probably didn't know what you wanted to do.
Yeah, no. And he's like, hey, right here, just sign here. I'll take care of you. 9 days later, I'm at Paris Island getting my head shaved. 9 days later, yeah. I showed my parents, all right,
Isn't the Marine Corps, all military services are unique in their ability to fast track you when necessary? Let me help you make this incredible life decision without putting much thought into it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So that
So
was
you
how I
actually
joined.
enlisted in the Marine Corps.
did.
So how did you end up at the Naval Academy? Because isn't that your commissioning source?
No, actually, I commissioned through the MESAP program. I spent some time enlisted overseas, Keflavik, Iceland, for a year and a half, 2 years. Came back, did 2-2, did a deployment with a MEU, MedFloat. Saw a little bit of limited action in support of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and then again in Africa.
Because I was going to ask you when 9/11 occurred in the story arc of your service.
So this day, joined in February '93.
Okay.
Applied for a commissioning program. The motivator for that was just, like all 22, 23-year-old kids, like, oh, I could do this better. I got better ideas. This could work better. And somebody said to me, well, we'll prove it. And like, well, as an officer, you'll have the ability to make changes and do leadership. And I can be a better leader, something. And the Marine Corps turned me around, though. Boot camp turned me around completely motivated. They reprogram you.
Yeah.
So I feel like I left boot camp completely 180 out of who I was when I went in, and that was great because I needed that. I just needed that kick in the ass. And
You know who else needs that kick in the ass?
99% of
I was going to say
America.
everybody. I was going to take it a little bit farther. Everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
So on the Marine Corps boot camp front, my only experience with it is Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, God.
How close are we talking to?
Nah.
Oh, come on. Damn it. Nobody asked you to choke them with their own hand and held it up?
That's not true. Like we did it was 93, so it wasn't Heartbreak Ridge, or it wasn't
Coming up on
Full
almost
Metal
30 years of
Jacket,
peace.
right?
2.5 decades and change of peace. Yeah.
Yeah, and so now, it's changed now. It's changed through years at models and times, but I never was physically, well, you were pushed to your limits at boot camp, but
For sure.
it wasn't the horror stories that you hear of
Yeah.
the 50s, the 60s, the early 70s, the Vietnam
I
era
went through
post-
Navy boot camp. Come on, man. I learned how to fold clothes in March. Like, I think that's one thing I've always loved about the Marines, right? Every Marine's a rifleman.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, like, hey, you exist to fight and win wars, which in my opinion, all branches of the military do, because that's the job of the military, but some focus on it to a degree that I appreciate more than others.
Mm-hmm.
Say it like that.
Yeah, we'll leave it right there. Yeah, every Marine rifleman. But boot camp was hard.
Yeah.
Boot camp was physical. Boot camp.
But
I
you know
made
what,
it.
though?
I made
Like
it
you
through.
said, it turns you around.
Yep.
I think I was fortunate. Like, I worked for my dad in a physical job. He is a masonry contractor, so I think my service reinforced and improved upon a lot of the lessons that I already knew. But it was amazing to me. There was people crying themselves to sleep every night in Navy boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of that, they weren't. It's that, and I think it was just the discipline and a little bit of the scrub washing away of the sense of me. They stop thinking that you're the center of the universe and start realizing that, if you actually work together with people and care about them, it's unlimited potential as far as what you can accomplish.
Mm-hmm. That's something that's lost, actually. Not to get us down a weird road, but it's called service, isn't it? Military service. Aren't you serving?
Yeah.
You're giving to others. Like, that's lost, man. But that's the attempt, right? Like in my mind, I joined the military service. I'm been given this amazing opportunity. I'm really actually lucky.
Yeah.
I've been given an opportunity to serve my country. I'm serving, so it shouldn't be about me. And that they broke me of that selfish thing that you just talked about,
Yeah.
and I'm very fortunate for that. And I think that was huge.
Well, that's the
That was
role of
huge.
boot camp too, right? You have to shift an individual's mindset from me to we. Like, and that's the mechanism in the departure, and that's why I think there's math behind or stats behind the 8 to 10 week time period that takes. But it's an amazing thing. I would wholly support a 2-year mandatory service for every American citizen.
Oh God, that would
I
be
think
great.
it would do amazing things for not only currently the country, but generationally for those lessons to pass on. And I don't think that anybody, or I can't say that, I don't think that it would be supported if it was propositioned or voted upon. I think it would get voted down.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no doubt. I
Yeah.
bet you could bet it.
Which
you
is
could
insane
bet it
because
all.
I think it could absolutely help right the ship.
It would be a good start. If
Yeah.
we could start, and it doesn't have to
It's
be
a step in the right
crazy
direction.
service, just
Yeah.
some form of 2-year obligatory service, just
That's
to
what I tell
give back
people.
to your country. It doesn't have to be military service, but how much are you losing out of your life? It's just 2 years. In fact, the
go
developmental.
serve in the Red Cross. Just give of yourself for 2 years, and not only in the service aspect, but how about this? I mean, how many places did you go in the military?
All over.
And what does that do to your perspective and your lens? You know what I mean? It just widens it, and you can. I am baffled constantly by people who talk about the oppression that they're feeling in the United States.
My God, I have no idea.
Well, it's like, you understand, right, that we have people who sleep in line for the next iPhone and pay more per fluid ounce for coffee than gasoline.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we are the most fortunate people on the face of the planet because of random luck to be born here. Like, and if you want to appreciate the things that you have, or a tool that would help you appreciate those things is to widen your gaze by traveling out of the U.S.
You know why I love America? It's because I appreciate it. I
Yeah.
appreciate everything that it's here and offering, that I'm actually taking advantage of, everything that I take for granted and the things that I don't take for granted. I mean, that's why I love America.
Yeah.
And the service has given me that luxury of perspective to see all of that out there. And it's like, wow, we really do have it good.
Best flights I've ever been on in my life are the ones that are heading home, man.
Mm-hmm.
And usually I'm the most appreciative when I'm coming back from places that are the exact opposite, or war zones or whatever it may be. But that sense of coming home, it's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we got it good.
Mm-hmm.
We got it good. So I think you were talking about your military service.
Yeah.
You and I could go down rabbit
Vote
holes
for Andy
days.
Stump president, 2000 whatever, it doesn't matter.
Stop
but,
it, never.
Let's do it.
I'd be fired immediately. So how far did you get on the enlisted rank structure? About E5?
Sergeant, yep, made it up to sergeant.
Listen,
E5, loved
I don't
it.
know the Marine Corps ranks.
E5.
All right,
Yeah.
good. I know that one, E5. Which for people, the ranks go from E1 to E9. So E5 is, what's the jump in middle management in the Marine Corps? In the Navy, it's from E6 to E7 when you put on chief.
E5 to E6, you
Is the big
go
jump?
staff sergeant.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's just kind of like a watershed thing in the enlisted community in the Navy. So you were, let's call it lower middle management,
Yep.
just to give some people some understanding of where you were in the organization.
Had some good responsibility, had some good real world conflict responsibility at 22, 23 years old.
Yeah.
And was selected for a commissioning program. They recognized certain things, and I was competitive enough. They said, hey, you know what, we'll put you to school, make sure that you have the minimum requirements in terms of college degree, whatnot, and some testing scores, and we'll make you an officer. And then University of Rochester Institute of Technology, I studied mechanical engineering. I don't know why I did that, but I majored in rugby. And
Majored in rugby with a minor in foosball.
yeah, right. Actually, it was darts, but it's foosball, darts.
Also
it's all
a
pretty
solid
good.
bar game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I went, why not go back and be an infantry officer? I didn't get a commissioning to grab at straws at something else to have a better life. The reason why I wanted a commissioning was to go back to the community that I was in, because I thought I could make a change, make a difference,
Yep.
and be successful, and I had the familiarity. And so when given the opportunity, I was able to pick what MOS I wanted. I had first choice at the time.
MOS, for people who aren't in the military, is, what is it? Military occupational specialty?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically it's your job, and usually it's tied to a numerical designator so they can keep track of you in a computer system.
Yeah.
But each MOS, like for SEAL, is 5326.
Great. Infantrymen enlisted 0311, and then 0302 for an infantry officer.
Okay.
And so I took the infantry route again. It's like, hey, I'm going back there because that was the reason why I went to source. And so that's that. That's how I became an officer. Did a few years as an officer, 12 years.
And you ended at the Naval Academy,
That's
right?
how I got to the Naval Academy. Twilight tour. Wanted to go back and put a thumbprint on midshipmen who are getting ready to enter the service that I was leaving, and try to model what I thought the exemplar was. And whether it was Navy or Marine Corps, because the Naval Academy is a commissioning source for both the Navy and
I
Marine
was
Corps.
going to point that out if you did not. Yeah, most people don't realize that there's just, West Point for Army, Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, but Navy and Marine Corps both go through Annapolis.
Yep.
So what did you teach while you were there?
I was inside of Bancroft Hall, leadership capacity. I was a company officer. I was fortunate enough to also have some extra duties as the battalion executive officer and some other collateral duties. It's funny is the more you worked, the more work you got. I guess that's not unique to the Marine Corps, because it was certainly the case in the Navy. But what I found was that those midshipmen were so awesome that the more you cared about them, the more they wanted to be around you, and the more that they
chance
demanded
you had
of you,
to
and
impact them too.
greater chance you had to impact. So it was, and I cared, and it just worked. I never worked as hard as I had worked ever in the Marine Corps for the sustained duration at a level or degree as high as I had at the Naval Academy. 3 years of nonstop go, and the more you went, the more they asked you to go.
So would you? I mean, you taught classes as well, though, right?
I did some guest speaking. I did some leadership stuff for them. I would go over to the Stockdale Center of Ethics and do some leadership classes when I was invited. But mostly it was inside of Bancroft Hall with a company of midshipmen, completely immersed into their everyday life. So 3 fronts, the academic, the military professional, and then the athletic. 3 different lanes that they had. So, and you mentor them, make sure they got the grades good enough, making sure they're meeting physical standards, and making sure that they're growing professionally to be suitable for military service. And it was awesome. It was awesome.
How did you teach leadership? Like, what was the tact that you took, or was there any? Because you can draw from personal experience, you could draw from volumes of book knowledge, right? It's not like leadership is a new concept. And I also reinforce all the time that, like, I'll go speak in the business world. It's like, listen, guys and gals, there's not a unique definition of teamwork in the military. It's a group of individuals working together for a common goal. That's close enough. And all of the good leadership principles that you learned about in business school, guess where else they're being taught? In the military. It's the same stuff. Now, in application, right, anybody can define teamwork. People can generally talk about leadership. I think they fail in the practice of both of those things, which is difficult. So that's why I'm curious as to how you would, what was your approach? I mean, because you had, I'd call it a pretty blank canvas. I mean, because people are going to come, obviously, with however they are morally or their values and virtues to the service academies, but yeah, you got them at a good time in their life.
Super impressionable,
Yeah.
malleable. You hit it right there. It's practice. Everybody can tell you what you're supposed to be like. How many people are actually modeling it?
Yeah.
And just model it. Just be. That's how I taught leadership. I just cared about others. They came to you. They asked questions. You just gave them honest answers, and they would snuff you out. Man, they're just like Marines, just like seamen, just like midshipmen. They're all the same. They can snuff out bullshit quicker than anybody.
Quickly.
Yeah. Oh, well, lieutenant's telling me this, captain's telling me that, major's telling me this, but he's doing that.
Dude, you just hit on exactly what I was going to say.
Right?
Again, like, nobody cares what you do.
Nobody cares what you say.
Cares you say.
Yeah.
How dare you correct me when I was going to correct
I'm
myself.
sorry.
I'm fucking with you.
we both opened our eyes and looked at each other.
Like,
It was like,
But no,
yeah.
but that, like, and that's why leadership is exhausting, right? And it should be, because you care so much. Because, and I give this example all the time, like, if you tell your people that they need to be at work by 8 o'clock and you show up at 8:20, you're done.
Yeah.
Your integrity is shot. You have to embody, like, how about this? Be there at 7:45 and don't say a word. You don't need to say shit, because then it's going to be a competition to see who can get there before the boss.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And
even the days that the boss isn't there, guess what? They will be.
if you're an individual of character, of substance, that has these values that people respect, I mean, it's not hard to pick out what those are. I mean, they're timeless. They're just going to do because they want to do for you, right?
Yeah.
They want to be this way because of you. They want to model what you do because they believe in you. It doesn't take a lot of words. And that's the start right there. And then that opens up this door, this avenue for conversation. They come to you with their problems. They come to you with questions when, hey, so-and-so told me this. Is that right? Or what do you think about that? That would be my favorite. Like, so-and-so told me this, or so I just learned that. Like, what do you think about that, Major Shantosh? And, oh, man, it's super easy to answer it because I just look at, like, how would I respond? How do I act? Who am I? Who am I? And then now here we are again back at that question of why, like, who am I?
Yeah.
And so that's it. That's how you teach leadership. You just be.
I love how when my kids come and ask me those things, like, Dad, I just learned this at school. What do you think? Or I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And I love it when they force me to tell them the truth and say, I don't know, but let's work through it together. You know, and then you get a chance to talk about anything you want to, whether like, let's make this decision based off of the morals we have as a family, right? Or the compassion or caring for your neighbor, you know what I mean? And it's just a chance to teach because you said, I don't know, but let's talk about it and make a decision together, as opposed to just do this and don't ask me, you know what I mean? Like two totally different avenues. One develops a compassionate leader in the future, and the other one's just like, all right, I'll just, you know, do what I'm told for the rest of my life, which we don't need any more of those people.
No.
In my extremely humble opinion, you know, we don't need any more of those people.
So you teach them to think.
Yeah.
Teach them to think based off of values about thinking and being considerate of others. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. Let's process this together.
Yeah.
Let's come up with a strategy. Let's think. I'm teaching you how to think. And it's based off of, I care about this person. I care about that person. I understand respect. And that's it. I mean, there's nothing secret. But that's why I love all these books that are out there. Leadership, blah, 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 blah. The leadership hack, leadership cheat code, like whatever.
Some of them are okay. I'm not, believe me, the vast majority, especially any of them that start with a big trident up front, I'm like, wave off. Right? There's more books about SEAL combat written than SEAL combat ever experienced, which is a mathematical equation that's askew.
How come when I first started this journey in the military, and I'm sure the same with you, I never knew a SEAL. They were supposed to be secret. Like the Navy SEAls. Like
there was 3 decades with nothing to talk about.
Everybody's a SEAL.
Well, I equate it to the quiet professional was always harped upon. But I also think it's a different world. Like there was no social media when we first came in. There was no weird outlet where you can, I guess, seek some type of recognition for what you're doing with just, you know, pictures, and you can selectively show the things that you think people want to see and not the reality of the world. But there wasn't much going on. And again, between Vietnam and, you know, 9/11, like a little bit in Panama, a little bit in Grenada, like other than that, some Bosnia stuff as well too, but there wasn't much to talk about.
Yeah, but I mean, when I first met you, it never came up in the conversation. I didn't even know you were just Andy Stump. Like that dude, like there's something about him.
I still am
cool
Andy Stump,
and
Tosh.
special. Where's your name tag? Yeah, but I mean that's who I met you.
Yeah.
I met you as Andy Stump, and this is who he is. I met Chris Smith. That's who he is. And Dave Castro, whoever it is. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And then it's only over time
It switched, and they lead with, "Hey, this is Navy SEAL."
Find out that that's
and
who you
then
are.
name. Yeah, it's.
I respect that. I respect that a lot.
I have no actual. I mean, again, I can hypothesize as to the changes. I think some of it's been societal, but I think it doesn't help either when those in positions of power air laundry that they shouldn't. Like unbelievable amount of information is being shared, which then drives this insatiable hunger for more information, which then the few guys who are willing to like kind of peek their head up, which in my experience, those individuals that have done that are sometimes the worst examples of the community. So it creates this incredible environment of stereotypes and terrible ambassadors, but nobody knows the difference because everybody else is just doing their job with their head down while somebody else is just feeding this false narrative and they're driving their own personal fame. So that's part of it. I do think the social media and the ease of passing information now is a problem. You know, I know that in the Buds pipeline now, they're just hammering on it. They're like, yeah, go ahead, put some stuff up. You'll be out of training so fast your head will spin. Like they're hitting it day one because it is such of a problem, but I certainly don't like it. You know, it's not something that when I was coming in and trying to figure out what it was to be a SEAL, there was a book called Men with Green Faces, like the traditional book that all SEALs have read. And then there was the Rogue Warrior series by Dick Marcinko, which I made a mistake of thinking it was nonfiction. I think the first one was an attempt at nonfiction. The ones beyond that, I was like, okay. But that was it. I couldn't find anything else. And now, I mean, I go to the military history section just to look at the churn and the volume of these books coming out, and it's just, I scratch my head, man. I don't know. It's not the route I would go. But at the same time, I have to say, the people that have those experiences, they're theirs to do with what they choose, right? They have every right to. It's just not the choice that I would make.
That we would make,
Yeah. So,
yeah, no, I don't know, rabbit hole, I suppose. But we talked about the amount of literature out there, the leadership books, and there's so many out there. On one end, you want to look for the source line and look for credibility of the author, and it means something for sure. But at the same time, I look at the value of the message for the credibility, and the books that I want to read are the ones that, okay, this might. But how do you tell a young guy to be able to know like that message is good or not? Like you got to explore yourself. I don't even know. I'm rambling. We'll edit that.
So I've been hit up to write a book plenty of times. And for one, I personally feel my skills would be tapped out at a coloring book, so that's a limiting factor. Right, I don't know if there's a market for a Navy SEAL coloring book. There'd be lots of red. But two, the same issue you just brought up. Say I wrote a book, and I was as honest and truthful and showed both sides of the coin, the good and the bad, the pros and the cons, the great things, and then the damage that's caused on the other side as well. How is anybody going to know whether that's a legitimate book when it's sitting in a stack of 3 shelves now at a bookstore? Mm-hmm. How do they know? How does anybody know the validity or authenticity? And I don't have the desire to beat my own chest and try to explain it to people.
No.
Like, I don't, that's just not in it.
I'm writing a book right now, actually, and it's got no words.
Yeah.
It's got no pages.
So it's conceptual.
Look, just look. I'm writing it with my everyday actions.
Yeah.
I'm writing it with my everyday interactions with others. And to me, that's my response. Oh, Tosh, you should write a book. I am.
Yeah.
You're looking at it. I'm walking it. I'm living it.
Yep.
And so that's how you teach leadership.
I'm actually I'm making a shirt for this podcast, and it says "Cleared Hot" on the front and on the back. It says probably my 2 favorite sentences. It's, stop looking for examples, become one. That's it.
Love it.
That's all I got.
Love it.
Don't look for somebody to show you the right way to do something. Go show everybody else the right way to do it.
And along that journey, you're going to make some mistakes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Those mistakes are exactly the opportunities, the exact opportunities that you need to have so that you can refine who you're going to be.
Yeah.
Right? We have to have those.
I totally agree. On the book front, if somebody, because I'm always curious too, because I love to read. Do you have a book that sticks out in your mind that captures leadership pretty well, or did you ever point the midshipman that you were looking for towards any literature?
Well, yeah. I'm thinking about which ones to talk about. The Moral Compass. I'm trying to think of the author.
Well,
who wrote the Moral Compass
yeah.
and the Book of Values. Like, look those up. They're
Yeah.
not military books.
Yeah.
Right?
There's some really accurate and awesome
amazing
military books that are not about the military.
Yep.
Because, again, the principles, the morals, the values, and the virtues, they're not unique to the military. Again, another point I always try to reinforce. It's just applied differently.
Mm-hmm. Those 2 books, From the Horse's Mouth, great book. It's a military book, and it's a bunch of vignettes and anecdotes. But I used to read that over and over and over. My book is dog-eared and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
But, the Moral Compass, the Book of Virtues, they're there. I'm trying to think that the book, it's on my nightstand, actually. Of course, you're going to ask me to use my memory, which is fading. I can't recall anything.
I've heard that
these
long
days.
distance running does that.
Yeah. Man, I want to look it up. I want to grab your computer right now and Google it. But it's about teaching children, really, and it's a book on parenting, and it's very, very simple. Your children are what they see, or your children are what they live, something like that. Just hit that thing real quick. We got to get that out there because it's a small book. It's an easy read. It's 3-4 page short stories. They are what they live. Your children are what they live, something like that. I've read that book a few times. You just open
Children
it up.
learn what they live?
That's it,
There
right
you
there.
go.
Who wrote that?
Dorothy Law
That's the one.
Nolte.
That's the one.
PhD, also known as doctor.
Doctor. Well, written by a doctor. There you go.
Yeah.
Children are what they live. That's a great book, and it's funny. It's ironic too, right?
Yeah.
Atheist's Book to Spirituality was another one that I've read that moved me, and I read that after I got out of the military. And
The Atheist
Book to Spirituality.
I'm actually going to write that down.
And it just was interesting. Here's what it did. It just made me think. It doesn't matter how religious you are, how aren't. You're either religious or you aren't. It doesn't even matter. There's these values and this way of thinking that just kind of transcends that. Just and it relates to me or it resonates with me. We had the Good Motherfucker Club.
Yeah.
Well, what's the Good Motherfucker Club? I don't know. what it is, how to describe it. You just know it when you see it.
Yeah.
And you want to be around it. And it has these things. There's these things about it. And to me, it's those messages, those books right there. They all speak to the same message. Just be a GMF.
Yeah.
So
Interesting life of military service, I would say. And yeah, you're very humble about yours, because I actually found something else about you on the internet.
Oh.
Yeah. And we can talk about
my
it.
criminal record.
No, we can talk about it as much or as little as you want to. But I mean, you're the recipient of the Navy Cross, which is one underneath the Medal of Honor, and your citation is on the internet, and it's pretty badass. So I'm going to read it so people can hear it, and then I'm going to ask you questions about it.
All right.
All right, you ready for this? To Brian R. Shantosh, and nobody calls him that. You have to call him Tosh, otherwise you're not his friend or he's in trouble. And you were first lieutenant at the time, which that is an 01, right?
02.
Damn it, I always get confused. So you go second lieutenant, then first,
Yep.
and then
We
lieutenant.
do it backwards,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
totally backwards. For extraordinary heroism as combined anti-armor platoon commander, Weapons Company, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, 1st Marine Division. Strap in, people. This is military talk. Yeah. One Marine Expeditionary Force in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom on 25 March 2003. When did we invade Iraq? I should know this because we went across the border like hours after that. It was in March, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that citation's like 8 or 9 days after we went in.
Okay, yeah, because I remember the cruise missiles hitting, and then we got on 47s and went and hit the number 1 chem bio target like shortly thereafter, which wasn't a chem bio target. That's a different story. It's agricultural school. While leading his platoon north on Highway 1 toward Tosh, help me out. Adiwania?
Diwania. Diwania, yep.
Oh, man. First Lieutenant John Tosh's platoon moved into a coordinated ambush of mortars, rocket-propelled grenades, and automatic weapons fire. With coalition tanks blocking the road ahead, he realized his platoon was caught in a kill zone. He had his driver move the vehicle through a breach along his flank, where he was immediately taken under fire from an entrenched machine gun. Without hesitation, First Lieutenant Chantosh ordered the driver to advance directly at the enemy position, enabling his .50 caliber machine gunner to silence the enemy. He then directed his driver into the enemy trench, where he exited his vehicle and began to clear the trench with an M16A2 service rifle and 9mm pistol. We rolling Berettas? Yep.
Oh, the little 9 mils.
Yep.
I kept mine in my pocket, too.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? It works. That's what they're designed for.
Came out quick.
Yeah, it's designed to hold things. I still think pockets are a fad, though. They're going to fade out soon.
Yeah.
His ammunition depleted, First Lieutenant Chantosh, with complete disrespect for his safety, twice picked up discarded enemy rifles and continued his ferocious attack. When a Marine following him found an enemy rocket-propelled grenade launcher, First Lieutenant Chantosh used it to destroy yet another group of enemy soldiers. When his audacious attack ended, he had cleared over 200 meters of the enemy trench, killing more than 20 enemy soldiers and wounding several others. By his outstanding display of decisive leadership, unlimited courage in the face of heavy enemy fire, and utmost devotion to duty, First Lieutenant Chantosh reflected great credit upon himself and upheld the highest traditions of the Marine Corps and United States Naval Service. And that's the motherfucking Navy Cross.
Yeah. That trumped up citation, they exaggerate a little bit.
And here's the thing, and I try to be honest with people. There's award citations, there's narrative summaries, there's witness, like it's the Marine Corps and the Navy, they are what they are, but that's hands down like one of the best citations I've ever read. And I think it speaks to your character that in talking about your military service, it's like it wasn't a blip on the radar. I think that's not that it wasn't a blip on a radar, you just left it be as it was, unsaid. Sounds like a hell of a day.
Yeah, rough day. Let's just talk about that real quick, because it's nothing that you wouldn't have done or anybody else would have done.
Yeah.
I mean, you're driving down the road and somebody starts shooting at you, trying to kill you and your friends.
Yeah.
You and the men that you love.
That falls into the action-reaction category for sure.
So what do you do? Well,
Yeah.
you're trying to kill the people that I love. Well, I'm going to get out of the way, and now it's payback. And, I mean, that's as simple as it was. And I was fortunate that I loved the men as strong as I did, because that's what compelled me to action. I'm fortunate that they loved me as much as they did. and that they were there to support me. I didn't do that alone. There was Armin McCormick, Thomas Franklin,
Yeah.
Robert Kerman, Cordy, all five of us in that vehicle, and it was a team. I'm also, a couple tanks in front of me and about 1,000 Marines behind me in a convoy, and we just happened to trigger the ambush. The enemy wasn't prepared for somebody to drive the vehicle right into the berm, and Armin did that, drove our machine gun vehicle right at the machine gun that was shooting us, and Thomas Franklin was good enough to whack those guys.
So, to stop you there, to explain to people, like when it talks about the kill zone, usually that's where the overlapping fields of fire are, where the enemy wants to get you. Mm-hmm. And I think I've talked about this previously. I mean, sometimes your highest likelihood and chance of survival is to actually drive through and at an ambush, which is not the behavior that your enemy is generally expecting.
Right. Yeah, we call it a near ambush, right?
Yeah.
If it was a far ambush, if they were farther away, we happened to be, the ambush line where they were laid in parallel to our direction of movement was 20, 30 meters off the road. I mean, they were behind a big giant berm and an entrenchment. And the shortest distance to safety was to run through them.
Yeah.
Than it would be to keep driving or try to turn around. And, mortars started coming in, machine gun fire, RPGs skipping off the tanks in front of us. Doc Johnson was killed in the attack immediately when a RPG went into their vehicle. Francisco Quintero was hurt pretty bad. That RPG, before it impacted on Doc Johnson, went through his stomach, his abdomen, and ripped a lot of his guts out.
Without detonating?
Without detonating.
Wow.
Yeah, because the ambush, we were so close.
It didn't have time to arm?
No.
Okay, and from my understanding, that's usually, 33 yards for those things to arm?
Give or take, yeah. Here's a Francisco Quintero. I'm going to talk about love. Like, the guy gets his guts, his abdomen's shredded because an RPG went through it. He didn't want to stop because he didn't want to leave, at the time, Lieutenant Shantosh, to go do this on his own. And, he got out of the vehicle when the vehicle stopped and kept coming to support me while we were going. I mean, you want to talk about, holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's bleeding out, and he just, no, my lieutenant.
Yeah.
He's up here doing this. Those are the kind of people that I was with.
Did he live?
He lived.
Good.
Yep. Oliver North saved his life.
Reporter
Another
Oliver
crazy-
North at the time.
Colonel Oliver North, yeah.
Awesome. I actually spent some time with him in Afghanistan in 2010.
What an American.
He asked me some questions. I was like, you need to ask me this in a few years when I'm out, because I'm not answering you right now.
Yeah, what an American. But yeah, drove at him. We got out of the vehicle. I was like, I yelled at Armand, let's go. Told Kerman, I was like, let's go. And I just started running down the trench and shooting some dudes. And I was glad that Armand and Robert decided to follow me and support me, and they're shooting dudes. And we just kept going. And there were more enemy, and so we just kept going, and there were more enemy, and we just kept going, and that was about that.
I don't even know if you realized it, but to me, you kind of described exactly what leadership is, right? Because a lot of people would say leadership is telling your guys, hey, go do that. But instead you said, hey, let's go. Mm-hmm. And you set the example. That to me is true leadership. And that's why the guys, that's why they get out of the car when they're injured and, potentially mortally wounded, and they're following the example that's getting set. That's what leadership is. Mm-hmm. It's, showing your people the right way and empowering them, not telling them what to do. That's the lowest form of just transactional leadership that I've ever seen. Not what you did, but what I'm just saying, hey, you go do that. I hate people who lead like that.
Yep. Be the example, model the way. There's thousands of books written about it, right?
Yeah.
Because it works. It's true.
So I don't know how to ask you this question because I don't know the right way to frame it. But I've known a few people who have received some pretty high awards, up into including the Medal of Honor. And I don't know if it is actually like this, but the perception that I got that was over time is that they became defined by and almost owned by that one experience in their life. And it was because that's, that's the thing. They're like, oh, that's Medal of Honor. It becomes the lead into every conversation that they're ever involved in, the description of who they are, the introductions, and I find that they struggle with it because they are now owned by that. Because at the end of the day, believe me, I don't have a fucking Navy Cross, but all of the military medals, it's a $1 piece of metal and a 5-cent piece of ribbon, right? It's not. It shouldn't define who you are. But did you ever feel like? Did you ever have thoughts like, people are going to expect me to do, or ever in a situation like I need to do this because of what I did does that make sense to you at all?
100%. 100%.
Like this is what people are expecting of me because of that award, so I have to act in a certain behavior, which is in and of itself kind of a sense of that amazing reward that you obviously, or award that you obviously deserving of, but having an effect on your life that I don't think it's intended to do. And I see some guys struggling with this. They define themselves by the award instead of just having it be a kind of a piece of who they are.
This is a huge, huge conversation. It almost feels like you're inside of me right now, like inside of me for my last 10 years since, how many years ago was this thing now?
14.
Jesus.
I know.
This is a conversation that I've had with myself in dark places a lot over those years, and it's layered. This was 10 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
It's not who I am. It's not who I want to be, and it's a go. It was 10 moments of my life, and let's face it, I was lucky, right?
Yeah.
I could have gotten hit in the running lights. I could have gotten a bunch of people killed, and what would you be thinking of me then? It'd be a completely different narrative for sure.
The award citation would read differently.
Yeah, or the criminal charges, right?
Yeah, for sure. People don't understand there's a lot of luck involved in combat, and I could honestly, I've seen more combat than some and way less than other, but I could train a monkey to do the things that I did, and sometimes I was in a position to make a difference. And other times, as much as I wanted to be in that position, I was nowhere near it. And it was just mathematical chance.
And let's define luck as I understand it. It's when opportunity meets the prepared.
For sure.
Or somebody
I would
who's
define it
prepared
exactly
meets
the same
and
way.
an opportunity, right? So I will take a little bit of credit that we were prepared, right? And we did things that we did, and we developed a camaraderie, esprit, and a whole bunch of other things. But we were lucky, or I wouldn't say fortunate at all. We were given an opportunity to show how prepared we were. And it was fortunate that we were prepared the way we were through our training and whatnot. But I mean, that was less than 10 minutes. Let's just call it 10 minutes of my life. If I'm going to live the rest of my life defined by those 10 minutes, I'm foolish, and there's a lot of people that do. They live it. I'm prouder of some of the other things that I've done in my life than I am that day. I'm proud of who I was that day. I'm not proud of what I did. Two significantly different concepts. I'm proud of what I am. I'm not proud of what I had to do, but I'm proud of how I represented myself, and I'm proud of how our unit did. It's different. Done some things on the scale of wow in Fallujah that makes that look tame, and I've done things in my life that I'm even more proud of than that, because it took a lot of courage or strength or just moral resolve to do and were challenged. But that was 10 minutes of my life. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that it didn't provide me with benefits and further more opportunities down the road for this or for that, or to influence or to have even more opportunities, right? Like the momentum from that put me in positions to be able to do greater good for more people, and I recognize that. And there's also a lot of burden with that, to be kind of where you're going, is to be somebody else. And now you feel like you have to do this and you have to do that because I have that, and I would push that away as much as possible. I didn't have to be anybody. I don't have to be anybody because of that.
Yeah.
I just have to be me. And the people that try to be more because they had a lucky day here, a lucky 10 minutes, that's not what it's about. It's I'm not articulating quite well. It's a big conversation. I have a problem with people that have done something well here, as I move my beer cup right there to show you.
On an audio-only format, yep.
Right, yeah. It's the visuals, I'm a hand and arm signal kind of guy on this podcast.
He's moving a beer glass around people, which is empty.
You do something great, right? Or no, let's say it like this: like, hey, you're a phenomenal doctor. You're great at giving babies. You deliver babies. You're the best baby deliverer in the world. And good, stay in your lane. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go to you and start asking you for advice and take what you say on what dishwasher I should buy, or how to live my life and solve relationship problems, or to do open heart surgery, or how to land a rocket on the moon or something like that. But people do that. And I have a problem with undue credibility,
Yeah.
right? Like, just because I did that and I have a Navy Cross, now people expect me to be an expert, or that my word or that my actions have value and a certain amount of credibility on I'm very particular about staying in my lane.
I almost find that sometimes, and I see this with SEALs, they don't even see the person anymore. They just see the award.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they forget that there's a human being on the other side of that too. And you know, the way I try to think about awards is, and again, my military career, I'd give myself a C. It was average. And I have, you know, some award citations that they can read like it was the same thing. Like, it's like, all right, that's, you chose some very interesting descriptive terms, you know, and it makes it sound awesome. But the same person that earned that award, if you were to write a narrative summary of the worst actions of my life on me on my worst day, like, you have to take that into account too. That same human being is defined by those negative attributes and characteristics and the things that I've done. Well, you have to look at the whole. And I just see people struggle because, like, they have they define courage and bravery and doing the right thing, but you still have the rest of your life. Like, goddamn. And then I see it just grabbing a hold of other people. And then you see catching people wearing, like, you ever see people wearing military words on civilian clothes? Use with caution, danger, right? Because they're owned by it.
It's a flag.
They're owned by it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They're now, not only are they used to people talking about them in those terms, now they want to be introduced in those terms. They want to be talked about in those terms. And, you know, I think when we first started talking, we were talking about the concept of service, right? It's not about wearing the stuff on your chest.
No.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
It's something I've done, but that's not who I am. I'm this, right? I'm not an expert at everything in the world just because I did that. I'm an expert at leadership because of who I am and the experiences that I have on the total gambit.
No, you hacked it.
You know?
Again, right? Yeah. It's of consequence.
Yes.
Like, you might actually hack yourself in a job into a position that requires experience. And if you encounter a void in that experience, most people will be like, oh, I'm going to be screwed. No, that's the wrong mindset. Your people are going to be screwed because of your lack of experience. That's why you're the expert, because you put the time in. You can't hack experience. I think that's what drives me the most crazy about that concept, because people don't inherently realize that it doesn't apply equally across the broad spectrum of humanity.
Social media. Right? You want to talk about managing perceptions and hacking life and hacking
people
who
put
you
up
are?
everything that's about their real life. There's no filters. They don't selectively. I mean, I don't know shit about social media, but I'm careful about what I put up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's you know what I'm most proud of in my entire life, and it's not an award citation. I'm proud of the stuff that I did in the military, but what gives me the most sense of fulfillment is when I watch my kids go over to somebody who is struggling or is hurt and they go offer assistance. Or when my son, without being asked to do so, will run ahead and open the door for a stranger. Like, that to me gives me such a deeper sense of fulfillment and satisfaction than any document the military ever felt, that I deserved.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I didn't realize until I got out. I mean, I don't know about you, but I had some blinders on when I was in the service. I didn't realize the carnage and the wake that we draft as the active duty service member. It's the easiest role to fill, right? Because we're working. I've had some conversations, with my dad and even with my wife. Like, I didn't get it. I didn't see the sine wave of stress and the up and down and all the secondary and tertiary effects because I was selfish. And I'm actually glad my career ended what it did, because I think it's going to be okay in the Stump family with the kids. They're turning into good human beings. 2 out of the 3 at least.
How old do you got? Let's talk about that.
13-year-old son. He turns 14 this year.
Yeah.
My middle son turned 12 today.
Yeah.
I missed his birthday.
Jeez.
I missed my daughter's birthday. She turned 9 in June. It's cool. They're so different. Wildly different personalities, and exponentially smarter than I will ever be. My middle son says some things that it takes me 2 or 3 days to unpack. He'll say a sentence, I'm just like, I'll get back to you on that. It's like, what kind of documentaries are you watching on your phone there? Let me see the browser history, because you're like Neil deGrasse Tyson deep on that. I need to back out.
That's such a great age, man.
So malleable.
Questioning everything.
And I'm not afraid to tell them I don't know. I love saying I don't know and let's figure it out together and working the issues out. So that's awesome, man. Crooked Butterfly. Explain this to me.
Oh, man.
Your social media handle is like what? Tosh Crooked Butterfly, right?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
My life hasn't followed a straight line. It's messy. I assume that's the way life is supposed to be. And there was a song, and Nicole and I had a song, and it was super cool. It was that message. It was about a crooked butterfly and getting picked up and just appreciating you for who you are. Came across some stuff. It's like, yeah, everybody's seeking perfection, and really, you know what's beautiful is imperfection's beautiful, and it's finding out those imperfections and things that you really like. That's what beauty is. And a butterfly's path is not straight. Butterflies are beautiful, you know, and so when we were looking at some things and we had a joke between the two of us, and I'm your little butterfly, I'm your crooked butterfly, and it really resonated with, yeah, there's no perfect path, there's no straight line to here or there. We're supposed to experience things, we're supposed to make mistakes, it's the journey, and a crooked butterfly, to me, it just sounded like a really good fit. And so we named our leadership company Crooked Butterfly, and throw that on my handle, Tosh.crookedbutterfly, and off and away.
Yeah. I saw a notification one day. It was like, Tosh, Crooked Butterfly. I followed you. I was like, I know a guy named Tosh, but what is this Crooked Butterfly nonsense?
Yeah,
that's what sparked the interest.
Touchy-feely, right?
Yeah.
Touchy-feely, I guess. But it's cool. To me, it makes sense. I can't even really explain it, but I just tried the best I could.
Yeah. Let's end it there.
Perfect.
We're a better spot to end it, man. Thank you for taking the time and definitely being so honest about your experience.
Yeah, anything for you, dude. I respect you a lot.
It'll make a difference, I think, for sure. I think people need to hear. I think far too often they get the shiny side of the coin. You got to look at the dark side of the coin as well too.
Doesn't have to be dark or shiny, right? It's just
look at both sides.
Look at the truth.
Yeah.
Let's just start there. And some people say it's dark, some people say it's shiny. Doesn't matter, but just process it. Yeah. I want to give you honest information. You know, I look at like people are always like, you're a liar, And I was like, nah, you're a thief. You're a thief, not a liar. You stole from me the truth. And because nowadays we accept people who lie because everybody lies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there's something in the military, and I know it's the same way in the teams, especially, is nobody likes a thief.
They're not tolerated.
No, they get
probably
shanked,
one of the quickest way out.
Right?
Yeah, you're taking your life into your own hand if you steal from your brothers.
Yeah, and I look at liars or thieves. They're stealing the truth, and I want to live my life with that. I want to be that example. Like, I don't want to steal from anybody.
So you can have one of the shirts. You can have one.
Yes.
Right on, man.
All right,
Thanks
brother.
for the time.
Thank you, man.
That is it for today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and thank you, everybody, who's helping me spread the word. I can see the numbers on the backside of the podcast, and the reach is certainly increasing, and I don't think that's due to anything that I'm doing. It's due to people who are giving me feedback and suggestions and then spreading the word to others that they know who might be interested. So if you're doing that, I appreciate it. And if you got the time, go on to iTunes, write a review, good or bad. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Reach out to me on social media if you have a question that you want answered. I can't answer them all, but I'll do the best I can to answer as many as possible. And until next week, see you.